Welcome back to my channel. It's Anne of Martin House Flowers. I hope you guys all had a wonderful Christmas holiday season. It's not quite the new year yet. I thought that, not everyone gets what they had hoped for or wished for, and I thought I'd just share some of my favorite garden themed gifts and gifts that I think are super simple and inexpensive to give, and thought I'd just share that with you today. And also give you a little bit of an update of what's happening in the greenhouse. I did experience some setbacks. You'll see behind me one of my mandavillas, or two of my mandavillas, didn't quite make the cold weather that we experienced while we were still experimenting with our heaters. You could probably hear our heater up there. So I just thought I would show you some of that. So thanks for joining me, and hope you enjoy this video and that you will like and share it. So here is our paper whites that I had planted in a previous video, probably about 4 weeks ago, I think. I think I planted these up in a video in November. And this particular one, I had lined this container with plastic, and looks like this one has soil. Is this soil or was it gravel? Nope, it's soil, and you can see the roots of the paper whites. They're pretty. It's pretty shallow in terms of how I planted it. And I did end up, I remember in the original part of the video, I had put 3 paper white bulbs, but I ended up adding a 4th one because I wanted it nice and tight. And I just love that I've got something blooming, and in terms of a bulb, it just reminds me of spring. And I'd have to say paper whites are definitely a faster growing bulb to force indoors. And as I mentioned, it was pretty cold here in the greenhouse in the last month. We experienced something like -5 to -10 degrees Fahrenheit outdoors. And while we were getting the heater situation figured out, we went from doing a 110 volt heater that was recommended by the greenhouse, BC Greenhouse Company, and unfortunately we received a defective one. So then we moved on to a second heater, and although we have a 10 by 12 greenhouse, we didn't account for the height. And with this height, it's not just 120 square feet that you have to heat. I can't give you the exact calculation that we worked out when we were doing the math, but we really needed more power. And after going to a 5,000 watt, and here it is, it says it's about 61. I think we had it set for 61, and it's about 45 degrees outside. We just took Eddie for a nice brisk walk, and we actually worked up a bit of a sweat when we got inside, and we realized, wow, it's kind of warm out. And there's that wreath I did. I put it on the inside with the forage greenery, and then I put the basket of hydrangea up facing the outside. So here's a couple other paper whites that I planted up in this window box, and they're going to be blooming soon as well. So you can see how I have the top third of the bulb sticking out. And I've watered this pot maybe twice. As soon as I started seeing some foliage coming up, then I gave it a little bit of water. So these are now going to be really pretty to be blooming on the windowsills. I'm so thrilled about it. And unfortunately, I killed, or the weather, the cold temperatures killed some of my indoor plants. So that was a huge learning. In the peak of summer, it is too hot to keep indoor plants inside the greenhouse. And as you can see here, I moved my 2 trays of seedlings indoors, and I'll show you those in a minute. But now here's a slower um, bunch of paper whites, and I don't know why they're slower, but they just are. And they're not growing under grow lights. It's just the sunlight outside, which is very, very limited. And here are my only surviving indoor plants that seem to tolerate the cold. This one is struggling a little bit. Probably need to repot it. But wow, I have so much to learn with indoor plants. And here is the third mandevilla that is kind of, it might be 25% still living, but the frost certainly got it. And I felt so bad because Greg carried in these 3 heavy containers, and unfortunately when we were experiencing cold temperatures and we had a gas heater temporarily in here, but it just couldn't keep up with the cold. So unfortunately, I would have to say all 3 mandevillas died. But the plus is that now I have a spot. I have my 3 containers that were planned for sweet peas, and I can start them indoors here in the greenhouse. So when I come back from my 2 weeks in Toronto, I will be starting up my seedlings, and sweet peas will be one of the first. I usually start my sweet peas and my pansies and then my snapdragons. So let's take a look here at my succulents. I've given them a little bit of water. They're doing okay. Not so bad. And this other one here. Now these were the only plants that seemed to survive the heat inside the greenhouse in the peak summer in July and August, and seemed to also survive the cold temperatures. So I'm pretty satisfied and relieved. And my most prized plant in here, or tree, is my Meyer lemon tree, and it has happily survived being moved in the fall and also the cold temperatures. Now, admittedly, there's a branch over there that touched the cold glass and seems to have gotten frosted, but the rest of the plant of the tree seems to have some new growth. So that's really exciting. I probably need to fertilize it. I think I used an Espoma organic fertilizer the last time, but I probably could fertilize it. And then there's some thyme that I grew from seed down there, and it's thriving okay. Here are some other paper whites. And these are some, I think, muscari from last winter that I just left after I just transferred them into a pot underneath my potting bench, and they seem to be surviving okay. And this is some bugleweed that's obviously struggled a little bit from the frost. So I definitely need to take some care with this guy. But I think there's some growth in there, some new growth, and I'm confident that in the spring, when I repot it or replant it outdoors, it should do fine. So here are the geraniums that I just carried in from the patio to overwinter, and it's definitely doing fine. I'm gonna have to just cut back some of these yellow leaves. And so geraniums, I would have to say, are one of the easiest annuals to overwinter. There's a couple methods. You can, overwinter them bare root in a paper bag in your basement. Just remove the plant from all the soil and just take the bare root and put it in a paper bag and carry it into your basement. No light, no moisture, and it should come back and when you plant them. There are some other paper whites. Another bugleweed that got frosty. Oh, this guy's kind of pulling out. And here's one of the other geraniums that is really struggling. So I need to, and I have watered it, need to definitely exfoliate, defoliate all these leaves and clean it up. But I'm confident this will be okay. And my birthday present from my mother-in-law, she gave me some cash and I bought this beautiful little myrtle topiary. These are some hyacinths, I think, that I potted up in here. Look back on a video to remember, but I do believe those are hyacinths. And I'm going to show you in a little bit my hyacinths that are inside. I had to bring in because they were just floating. The roots from the bulb were just floating, and they froze in the greenhouse. The water froze. So here are the hyacinths that I brought indoors, and after the water froze inside the greenhouse, I brought them into the guest room, which is a nice, cool, dark room because we don't often turn the lights on, and they're thriving. But there's my foxtail fern, doing really well. I'm so happy about it. And here are my bulbs the first ones that I forced. These are muscari, the little mini grape hyacinths, and they're already coming up. So we'll find out what's in there. I'm quite sure those are all muscari. This one here is also some hyacinth bulbs that I planted up in one of the last videos back there too. So my other bulbs are being forced are in the green or in the garage. There's the other one. So yeah, I think I'm gonna have some space in this early spring. I'm gonna start my sweet pea seedlings in February when I come back. You can wait till March to do them, but I'm going to do them in February because I'm going to plant them up in here in these pots, leave them indoors until it's warm enough past frost. Here's a pepper plant that I put in a pot that I'm hoping will survive, one of Greg's favorite hot pepper plants. And I did carry in my boxwoods because I decided not to cover them in burlap. I decided to just carry them in. It's a little bit crowded in here, but I'm quite happy to try to save these. One is on the patio that I'm hoping will survive, but I didn't want to experiment with three topiary boxwoods sitting outside in the cold because we just got that really cold frost before Christmas. And here are my one pot of amaryllis, and I'm surprised that they haven't, sprouted out at all. So I haven't watered them since I first potted these up, but I'm not going to until I see something coming up. So they're definitely a late amaryllis. And there's my realistic but artificial tree from Hobby Lobby. And let's see. Oh yes, I just watered these a couple days ago, and these geraniums are doing pretty well. My pelargoniums. Let's just call them geraniums. That's a tongue twister. There's the pink one and the white one, so I think they're going to be fine. So that's the update on the greenhouse. So I'm just going to take a couple minutes here and prune this geranium. Just get rid of all the frosted branches, clean it up. Definitely there's been some dieback, but I'm confident there's going to be enough here that will allow it to overwinter it successfully into the summer. Geraniums can handle a little bit of light frost. I'm trying to think back as to when I brought it into the greenhouse. I think I waited till almost November or maybe it was just late October. And if you remember, in my zone, Zone 5B, Northern Illinois, it was pretty much as per Google. We got our first frost, if I recall, October 16th. So thereabouts, I brought this geranium in. And they're not, an expensive annual by any means, but they are a nice white, pure white geranium, and I wanted to try and save it for next year. I was thinking about some of my plans for the new year in the garden, and that kind of ties into some of my, you can tell how soggy this is, resolutions in the garden. And one of my resolutions is definitely to buy less plants, do as much from seedlings as possible. Obviously, to save money, and just to also learn more about what we can do to grow from seed and save, because I'm not one of those gardeners where money is no object. I retired in the spring of 2024 this year, and I really have to start thinking about spending less. And the beauty of, the disadvantage of a new garden is that you're having to start from scratch. I mean, we moved into this house in fall of 2021, and we started investing in the garden by planting 11 trees, um, maybe 10 trees, and then the following year in 2022 we planted 5 fruit trees, and in the midst of all that we planted all of our hydrangeas, and gosh, probably over 30 hydrangeas. And then of course last spring I started my journey with roses, and I keep promising myself that I'm going to be buying less roses, and I do have a few on order, and I will include that in my next video talking about plans for 2025, what we can look forward to in terms of plans in the garden. And but yeah, that's just one thing I'm hoping to plant less or buy less, because I will, number one, run out of space, and number two, learn about propagating more with what I have. So there you go. That is much cleaner, and I think we're going to be okay. While I'm here, I'm just going to go ahead and cut this poor frozen mandevilla down so that there's just less dead foliage. And then in February, when I have my seedlings started, I'll have a place to start them. Since we're sharing the truth, I'm trying to be fully transparent about my lack of knowledge on certain plants, like indoor plants. This is a aloe, and it also experienced some frost, and I'll have to check my other clip where I showed the paper whites right beside it. But they had clearly, these outer leaves here had experienced some frost, because they were up this high and completely bolted down and purple, frosted. But I don't know if it's the right thing to do, but I noticed there's a lot of new growth down here with all of these. So I went ahead and cut those um, parts of the plant that were frosted down, and could probably use some of that aloe that's in there for cuts and so forth. But again, I don't know if I've just butchered this plant, and this could be a big what not to do. But please share with me any of your knowledge that you have on indoor aloe plants, as to whether or not I should have done that. But I'm encouraged by the fact that I see some new growth down there and hoping that it survives. Again, it wasn't a very expensive plant. I just picked this up at Aldi uh, a few months ago, and I hope it survives. But I wanted to show you how this has been trimmed back, cut back, and it's looking better already. And I pulled out, or I actually just cut back because the roots weren't easily coming up. It's like the soil is still frozen in there a little bit. So I just cut back the the branches of my mandevilla. But look at the ivy. The English ivy is doing well. So I can continue to water those and not be wasting time on a dead plant in the center. I removed this whole root of the mandevilla, and the bugleweed in the corner there is okay. And I just have this third one to do over here. But I wanted to share with you, as I mentioned earlier, oh, and there's a hydrangea. This is the one I was trying to nurse back. This is one I pulled out from the front bed, front south bed, and it's a Let's Dance Lovable, I believe. I don't know if it's going to make it. Might have gotten frost damaged in here when we had that frost. So we'll see. We'll cut it back in the spring. So I wanted to share with you a couple of my favorite gardening gifts. But before I do that, I wanted to just talk about gifts that I believe are the most important and the simplest and most inexpensive, and tie that into a little bit about traditions, because to me that's what Christmas and the holidays are all about traditions. So sometimes the smallest, most inexpensive gifts and most special, honestly, are um, just the simplest ones and the most inexpensive and just require a little thought. So my number one gift that I received and also gave was the gift of time. And so this year, when I was busy um, wrapping all of the gifts under the tree, decorating, um, and baking, doing all of those things that most of us, uh, do for the holidays, my husband was pretty insightful and noticed that I was a little blue. And I think a lot of us share that. The holidays are sometimes tough for people. I'm, from Canada. I think most of you have heard that if you've followed me before. I transplanted here 8 years ago. And so as a result, I've left behind my family and all of my friends really back home in the Toronto area. And as much as I'm, happy to be here and love my husband and my new family here, my stepkids, I still always feel incredibly sad around the holidays. So my husband noticed I was feeling sad, and then he, just last minute decided that we drive to Toronto for a few days before Christmas. And I had already planned to go to Toronto early January because my daughter was having her baby and she was due at the end of the year, and I wanted to be able to spend a couple of weeks there. But we had sort of suspected she might go early, and sure enough she did. And but also, my parents are getting older, they're 89, and my dad's health wasn't doing that well. And I also had an uncle that was also not doing very well. And as a result, sadly, on Christmas Day, my uncle Rolly passed away in his sleep on Christmas Day, and I did post a short video about the sad news, and I actually took down that video the very next day because, for privacy reasons, my daughter didn't really feel comfortable having her newborn son shown on that video. So I thank everyone, those few of you that did watch it and sent me some really beautiful, heartfelt messages, and I appreciated that. It was a very sad Christmas Day for our family. My cousin, who is like a sister to me, called me Christmas morning and, was very upset, obviously. And my mom called me to let me know the news. And I had anticipated it, but you're never ready. So that was a very, very tough time. I feel so bad for my family that, has had to experience that sadness, especially on Christmas Day. Try not to get choked up. But the you know, the happy side to the holidays was that I did receive the best gift of my grandson. And that time that I was given just prior to Christmas was the most special experience. Being able to hold my grandson for the first time and be reminded of my daughter, his mother, being born and coming home on Christmas Eve 30 years ago. So that gift of time, honestly, you can't replace that. That was the most special gift that my husband gave me this year. And I am so grateful for his, willingness to drive those 8 hours. And it did snow in Toronto shortly after we arrived, and we drove through a little bit of snow when we crossed the border, and nevertheless, it was just a wonderful time. And the gift that it gave my parents to see Greg and I, and for my dad, who loves Greg, and to be able to have someone sit there and listen to his many stories for an entire day was just time we'll never get back, and was just a most amazing gift. And I have to say, my husband's the most patient person on this planet, because he was able to sit there and hear all of my dad's stories. And of course, I have to share my time with my mom too, so I don't often sit as long as he does with my dad. But nevertheless, we were able to bring all of our baked goods. I brought some gluten-free cookies here for my daughter, Hannah, my oldest, because she has gluten issues. Able to bring some cookies for my daughter, the new mom, and my son-in-law, and of course my first time baking panettone. So that leads me to my second, best Christmas gifts to give or receive, and that is our traditional giving simple gifts. One of the things I started a while back when my grown daughters started their own homes, and I started, I'd given them their childhood stockings, but I gave them each for their initials on stockings, and they're just inexpensive $10 stockings from Target. But I never knew when I gave those to them and their significant others, their husband and their significant other, giving them their initials and walking into their homes every Christmas and seeing their letters on the stockings, the initialed stockings. And then when as a family grew and my daughter got her dog, Millie, she got a stocking. And of course, I was given a little hint about I was allowed to get a letter C for the upcoming birth of my grandson. So his stocking was on the mantle. I was able to bring that to him the day I met him. And those are just little things that, you start out with 2 stockings per family, and then it grows to 4 in a matter of a couple years. And they're just a very simple, inexpensive gift. And I never knew that would be so meaningful. When my oldest daughter's boyfriend got his stocking, I think it was 2 years ago, I got him and my daughter some really nice things for their kitchen, but that apparently was his favorite gift to receive, and that was his stocking with his letter on it. And I think it's because it represented being welcomed into the family and being officially part of the family, to have his letter on a stocking to match everyone else's. So that's just one of the traditional, inexpensive gifts that I've been happy to give. And I touched on the other one, and that's my third gift that I love to bring, and that's baking, making homemade gifts or baking. Um, so I mentioned the cookies, that I did the gluten-free cookies. And my dad's favorite treat is panettone, and he loves to tell a story about how he, would drive, a distance to go to Little Italy in the Toronto area, north of the city, to find that panettone that he loves, and he's tried all these different ones, and just finding that right panettone. So this year I thought I'd challenge myself and make some panettone, and I did them in little cupcake, the taller cupcake sort of cardboard containers that I'll show you. And it was a success. And the morning we drove to Toronto at 6 a.m., I had actually, you know, put those in the oven at 6 a.m. to bake for, I think, 30 to 40 minutes. And they were fresh. And when he received them and he enjoyed them, I wasn't sure he'd enjoy them because he's got a pretty, specific, he's pretty picky about his panettone, but apparently he enjoyed them. So that just made my heart really happy to be able to do something like that and challenge myself with, baking. It's a 3-day process to make this panettone, but luckily it was a success. And one of my fourth gift ideas is themed. When you have a hobby or a favorite team, for example, I think back to obviously in terms of hobbies, um, we're all gardeners that watch this channel, and I will share with you in a minute my favorite garden themed gifts that my husband gave me. But I look back to, I think it was 2016, yes, when the Chicago Cubs won the World Series. And of course, I'm from Toronto, and Toronto fans all favor the Toronto Blue Jays, but I decided to get all of my brother's family um, t-shirts with the World Series of the Chicago Cubs. Now, that was a long time ago, but I still think about the fact that sometimes it's easier to just get everyone in the family the same. Gave out the Chicago Cubs t-shirts. Everyone had to wear them, even though they were Toronto fans. So that was just something super fun. And so in terms of garden gifts, I received my much requested LL Bean boots that I will drop a picture of. I'm wearing them now. These are my wellies from LL Bean. And when Greg and I were in Maine, Freeport, Maine, where they have their LL Bean headquarters, they are open 24 hours a day. And we both tried on boots and for something to do because we were full of energy after his high school reunion. And so I had asked for these boots, and I got them for Christmas, and I am so thrilled because it is not snowing here. It is, pretty wet out. So guess who joined me? Look who's here. Eddie was crying at the door. I could see him from the corner of my eyes. So his sister brought him in, and he's decided to join us. So of course, I should remind myself that part of the gift of time, when we went back to Toronto for a few days and came back Christmas Eve, we were able to bring Eddie with us. And bringing Eddie to see my dad and my mom and my daughters was another extra bonus gift, because being able to be with Eddie and my family is just so special and important, because I hate when I have to leave him and put him in boarding and doggy daycare. So anyway, he got to come along. So let's continue on so we can catch the last of the daylight, because it is late afternoon. It's probably around 4 o'clock and we didn't really get much sunlight, but the sun is actually going down. So which is kind of ironic, because we're not going to get the solar lights coming on, I don't believe, because we had daylight, but we didn't have any sunlight as far as I could see. So I wanted to touch on outline here, my theme gifts. So I got my LL Bean boots, my wellies that I absolutely love. I'll show you those. My wellies, I've already been out on a walk with them, and I do have a fairly wide foot, so you can see a little bit of my lovely bunion sticking out there. But these are a size 7. I'm normally a 6.5, but I always go up half a size in a boot. And it's not winter weather outside, so I just wore a wool sock underneath, and I just love these boots, and I think they're a little stylish for my gardening or walking around, because I do walk a dog 2 to 3 times a day. So I highly recommend these wellies from LL Bean. The boots that I wear often in the garden, I have a pair of hunter boots that are tall, but I also have a short pair of Barbour, B-A-R-B-O-U-R boots that I love as well. But I wanted something just a little more stylish, and I love this green color. So yeah, highly recommend them. They have that little orange trim, match Eddie's leash. But yeah, there they are. Highly recommend these from LL Bean. I got this giant burpee scooper and I believe Greg got it from Amazon, but can you see the size of this? It's stainless steel. I wanted the largest scooper. I think I sent him a bunch of links to different scoopers, and I just wanted the biggest one possible, because you know, when you've got your bag of soil and you're using your standard, you know, I have a Fiskars one, I think it is, and it's just a scoop that's about, you know, 4 inches on average, 4 inches long. You just end up getting frustrated if you're anything like me, and you end up using your hands, and then you end up with dirt everywhere. So I've got my giant scooper, so I'm so thrilled about that. So yeah, I think it's, you know, under $20, but so loved getting that. My other gift are a pair of rose gloves. As you know, if you follow me, I have several rose shrubs. I think I'm up to 30 roses. Are you okay, honey? So these go, I'm a petite person, I'm 5'2". These go up to my elbow. These are a size small, I believe, and my fingers fit pretty good. A little bit long on the pinky, but I'm going to be protected all the way to my elbows when I go to trim and plant my rose bushes this summer. So I'm so thrilled about those. I noticed Heirloom Roses also has some on their website under $20. So another great inexpensive gift that, you know, I could have bought myself, but I hate spending money on, I was just talking about that earlier, I hate spending money on accessories or supplies when I could be putting those dollars towards a new plant or a new rose or new bulbs. But anyway, I loved getting these helpful tools. And the last thing that I got, which was a total surprise, was a flower press kit. And I haven't even opened it yet, but I had talked about, I watch the Chicago Gardener, and as you know, I am in the Chicago suburbs. I'm about an hour and a half away from downtown Chicago, and she dries all of her flowers from her balcony garden, and she has 2 balconies, and I think she's added a 3rd one. And she did an episode where she was pressing flowers, and Greg must have overheard me say, like, oh my God, what a cool idea, pressing flowers. Because I remember doing it as a kid and just putting your pansies between books. So I'm super thrilled because I did not send him a link or give him a picture of anything. I just mentioned it, and he actually heard me. And so it's basically has these screws and washers and these boards that you can, and instructions, and it has tools included: scissors, a needle, craft knife, tweezers, and all of that. And Eddie, you want to get down, honey? Yeah, there we go. So I can actually show this. So it's basically some cardboard pieces, some probably acid-free paper, and it's from a small family business, GretaGrace.com, and I'm so thrilled that he did this. He's supporting a small family business, and here are the tools. And I don't know what this is, but I'll find out. It looks like a nylon. Oh, it's like a nylon bag, like a nylon shopping bag that you can collect your flowers in, probably. And then you can go through them and press them. So, and then in here are the boards. And they're like MDF boards that has her beautiful logo on the front. It's like a flower wreath. So two pressed boards, not MDF, pressed wood boards that would represent the base and the top, and then your cardboard, your corrugate, and your sheets in between, and you press your flowers. So I'm super excited about that. I'm so excited about it. So yeah, it's you know, I honestly never know what to ask for Christmas, and I don't, at this age, I don't like to spend a lot of money um, on wasteful things. I'm trying to be more of a minimalist, but in gardening, there's always something, right, that we need. So another item that I wanted to mention in terms of like collecting little gifts that are inexpensive, and that's ornaments. My stepdaughter and I think in a previous video I showed you, we did some marble ornaments, and so we just went to Hobby Lobby and we got these clear ornaments, clear balls that came in like I think it came in like an 8 or 12 pack, and we filled we put in 3 or 4 drops of acrylic paint into these ornaments. And I think I should have videotaped it. Maybe next year I'll do that for something to show. And anyway, we just did 2 to 3 drops of paint and shook them, and then they turned into these beautiful ornaments. And we gave a couple to my mother-in-law and sister-in-law out in California, and I think they saw them in their package and they didn't even realize that we had made them. They were that good, apparently. But they didn't comment on them until my stepdaughter mentioned to them that we had made these ornaments for them. And then she gave one to each of her teachers, and they all loved them. And we did different colors, and I wish I had taken a picture of all of them. I'll show you a picture of the 2 that are on our tree again, because I did feature them in a previous video. But that was something fun to do, an inexpensive homemade gift. And I also, got an ornament for Greg and the two girls to start their collection, because I mentioned before that I've started giving some of my vintage ornaments to my girls back home, because they have their own Christmas trees now. And every year I bring them a couple ornaments or Christmas decor items that they had and loved in their childhood, and they now get to display them in their homes. And it's just such simple things that don't cost any money, and they just love them, and I just love being able to share those with them. So I got a violin um, for for Maggie, because she loves to play the violin. I got a little red ruby slipper for Amanda, because she is going to be in the Wizard of Oz play upcoming in the new year. And I got Greg a pickle ornament, because his dad had a pickle ornament, which a lot of people know that that's a German tradition. And his mom wanted it back to remind her of her husband. So we sent it back last year to California. And I know Greg loved that ornament. So I wanted him to have one here to remind him of his dad, and to start his tradition of having a pickle ornament on a tree. And I hear that people hide them, and then it's finding that pickle ornament on the tree. So just wanted him to have his own pickle ornament. And my last favorite gift, I'm stealing the idea from my daughter, who's a minimalist, and that's that her and her husband give gifts of doing an activity or an experience for the holidays. And whether it is going on a dog sledding adventure, up north, or I think one year they went on a helicopter ride. But just doing something that maybe is on your significant other's bucket list and sharing that experience together. I know one year I gave Greg tickets to a Cubs game and got him a jersey to go with that. And we all got to go to a Cubs game one summer around his birthday. And that was a great experience, because, as we get older, like, experiences are more meaningful and memorable than getting a thing. So I love that idea of sharing an activity with your significant other. It can be something as simple as going skating, or going to a movie. My stepdaughter wanted to go to a movie for her birthday with one of her closest friends. So we did that just the other day for her birthday. So I wish you all a very happy holiday season, and wish you all the best in the new year. And I look forward to sharing more videos with you. And the next video I might be filming in Toronto, because I will be there for a couple weeks in January. And I might be talking about probably my plans for the garden in 2025. So I just wanted to share this video with you, and hope you're all doing well, and hope you had a wonderful holiday season. And I want to thank you for your support in watching my channel in the past 9 to 10 months. And I look forward to being with you all again in the new year. Thanks for joining me today, and we'll see you in the next video. Bye-bye.